Okay, it wasn't bad. Less slides, more talk. I'm just
That's a mic.
frustrated.
No,
Okay, it's right there.
maybe.
Here we go. Hey, there's all a good, nice, happy, beautiful faces. There we go. Okay. Hi, Gerda. How are you doing? Hi, Sarah. Hi, Cindy. Hey, Sandra.
Am I the reason you got so riled up today?
Little.
Easy, come on. You make it so easy.
I know. Well,
It's like pulling a string in your back. You're
of
like,
course
oh,
it is. Yeah, it's the way it is.
I'll say the H word. That'll show them. Come on, toughen up.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I should have a tougher hide after all these years in the
You would
mosh
think.
pit of politics.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a
It's
mosh
okay for people to have different opinions.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Totally. It's just better if they agree with mine, though.
That's right. Well, I didn't have to do that. That's what happened. I questioned you. I dared question you. My goodness. Oh boy.
So, Coral Gables, Cindy, how are things? You're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's your county?
Well, our county's not bad because
Yeah.
we're in this little Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
Half of our population is sunbirds and snowbirds, and they've all gone north.
Right. Yeah.
So
So
I think we had one case.
that's good. So really the hot spot or the driver of the big increase in Florida is Southern Florida, right? It's like all.
Yeah, Miami, Palm Beach.
Yeah. Is it, I mean, I'm trying to come to an understanding. Is the consensus that the certain businesses, especially like businesses that invited or, you know, large gatherings, bars and things like that, clubs, is that what people rushed back into, Terry, you think in Texas as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
So that's the big.
Hairdressers, beauty salons.
No,
How
but
about
that's my
Disney?
question. No, that's my question, Cindy. Do you really think it's the hairdressers and I'm trying to figure out where the major spread's occurring because I don't think it's the single person interactions. You know what I mean? Like going to get your hair cut.
I agree.
I can remember driving by restaurants with 50 people standing outside, no social distancing, and maybe 3 had masks on.
That's a big problem. That's a big problem.
In our area, the more upscale places were using precautions and social distancing. But the bars, no. It's closing them.
Because see, one of the things that's been advantageous to me from being in Facebook jail is that then my news feed is no longer Facebook. My news feed is self-selected stuff that comes to me on my iPad from 2 apps, Apple News and Flipboard. So you get to select your actual news sources. Like, so I always, now Sandra's going to be amazed, but Fox News is one of my news sources. Okay. I do listen to and read.
And I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
So I do because I'd like to contrast, because one of the other news sources that I left behind many years ago, Terry knows this, Huffington Post, Daily Costs, and all that, like they just got too
ridiculous.
Cartoonish.
Perfect. That's a perfect word. What do you want?
HuffPost is a cartoon. I can't read it. It's I can't get past the first article without clicking off.
It's so agenda driven, and it's so like it just is. I can't.
And I'm just left.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm just left of Che Guevara. So, and I can't watch. I can't read HuffPost because it's cartoonish. That's ridiculous.
How do you find Vox and Slate? They're kind of rough.
Vox is about 50-50
Really?
for
Well,
me.
I thought Slate was a little center right, in fact, at times, most of the time.
Oh,
Vox is definitely on the left, and it's okay. I mean, you know what's a great news source? Vice.
Vice.
Vice is a great news source because it's not a political, it's just news, independent news. And some of their stuff on the social, like, pot use and things like that, that's left. But when it comes to like they're reporting out of Syria and they're reporting on other countries that are well, you can call it developing world or whatever, and how they've been hit by COVID, outstanding, totally outstanding, and they do dangerous work, like the stuff that CNN and others left behind decades ago, like who do we have at NBC that does any field work? Richard Engel, like there's no, we used to have a host of correspondent, foreign correspondents. You remember that?
Yeah.
During like the Walter Cronkite, and then when he handed over to the young Dan Rather and Peter Jennings, that era of reporters that actually went out and got news and developed stories and made, got sources and vetted things. It's also, everything has been so commercialized, including the news. That's one of the things that I was coming back to what I was saying about being in
It's
Facebook.
corporate ownership.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's entertainment. I mean, that's what it is anymore.
That's
and
all
it's
it's all
bought
it's
and paid
coming
for.
back to.
Yeah.
And they keep snagging, the hook in the mouth for all of these is they play on your political, your emotions very much. So I've actually been a lot calmer instead
Very
of
good.
having Facebook, constantly instigating my emotions
Yes.
of rage and, so.
Yes.
I
And you
used
have
to,
people like me irritating you with questions.
I love you, Sandra. You know that. Your questions are always great and intelligent. And
I
this
give you
brings up,
content.
huh?
I give you content.
Yes.
I remember week 3 or 4, Sandra in the chat on here telling me not to be political.
Oh yeah, well, I was new. I did not realize that.
Yeah.
It was you brought up something about Texas and I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
So I
but
remember Sanjay saying, well, we want to keep this out of we want to keep politics out of it.
Yeah. And when it comes, it's hard. It's hard because initially it was actually relatively straightforward to keep this very science and medicine based and kind of focus on epidemiology and focus on the virus. But now it's actually that we've learned so much about the basic science that I think solution engineering should be pretty obvious no matter what your political bent, right?
And
it should be pretty clear that we don't have control of this in this country like they have controlled it elsewhere in the world, and that we should not be arrogant about changing our approach. Let's just do that, because I'd rather return to being in the safest country on earth, the best health. I'd rather be on top again than where I find myself. And then I have doctors from India calling me and they're like, what?
What happened? Yeah.
40,000 cases yesterday.
My viewpoint of Texas from week 3, we're living it now.
Hi, Jeffrey.
We are actually living it now, which I thought we would be, and it came to be.
Same in Arizona.
Yeah, I I don't know if anyone has things that they'd love to ask that I didn't get to. Please go ahead. I've ranted a lot tonight, but one of the things that is now differentiating and is approach, right? So lucky enough to be in a state that didn't get really nailed. So lucky enough to be in Pennsylvania that we didn't get nailed. And there are other states that have escaped the major damage from this. It is I don't know whether our method or whether our leadership would have been as effective in keeping our numbers the way they are here in Pennsylvania if we were in a different circumstance in terms of like the population of Texas or the commerce and transit of New York State or California. But we use a term called positive deviance, where instead of focusing on what doesn't work and criticizing it, you try your best, especially in medicine, quality and safety in medicine. Instead of like chastising what doesn't work all the time, it leaves a very it's a very defeatist almost strategy with a large crew of healthcare workers to keep picking on them, to keep saying, oh, you failed to do this, you failed to do that. What you would rather do, and what I saw done well under Dr. Glenn Steele at Geisinger, was you pick the one nurse or the one doc or the one whoever primary care person that did everything. Oh my God, this dude that did everything right. Okay.
Cindy, I have a question for you later because you live in Florida.
He did everything right, and then you hold them up or she did everything right. You hold them up as an example to everybody else, and you use that and you examine what they did. Okay, why were they successful? Why did 99% of their diabetic patients get a foot exam, an eye exam, an HbA1c, blah blah? And they made sure that they got U.S. Preventative Task Force recommendations down on every one of their 1,700 patients this year. Okay, and you give them a $2,000 check for doing it. But you incentivize positive, success stories. You incentivize success stories, right? So that, I think that works politically as well. Yeah. So who in this mess has done an outstanding job and why? All right. Let's leave whether they're left or right out of it, whether Democrat or Republican out of it, because Baltimore's mayor, I think, is a Republican, or I don't know, one of these guys from Maryland. Maryland's governor or something is a Republican, but he's been successful. Okay, he's been evidence-based. He's been science-oriented. And then there are Democrats that have failed at this too. There are Democrats that didn't take it seriously. So it's, come on, let's leave that shit alone. We can deal with that on the 2 weeks before the election. We can be at each other's throats again. But right now, figure out who's doing it right and make sure everybody knows that that's the right way to do it. And let's just do it that way. That would be great. So anyway.
Sarah, how's Chicago doing?
Yes.
I'm interested to see how it's going to be in a couple of weeks, because they're just starting to open up street side dining. This weekend people started going in, so there's more socializing, no masks when you're inside. So I'm interested in seeing what that's going to look like in a few weeks.
So tell me about this no masks while inside. Why is that a governor's order in Illinois? Is it a city ordinance that was?
Well, when you're dining,
okay.
if you're in other things, in other businesses, it's expected you're gonna wear a mask. But when you're dining, just the servers are wearing masks, and then but it's right now, like, we just opened up for outside dining not too long ago. I think they should have done that a little longer. Mm-hmm. And see if people can responsibly socialize, because like right now there's a 2-hour time limit, well, that's 2 hours of people hanging out in groups of 10, drinking and
Wait, there's a 2 hour time limit in the bar?
yeah, well, in restaurants and yeah, so you get 2 hours to be able to sit there.
Who
And
comes up with this shit? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
Don't hold back.
um,
Trying to get more people in there and to not waste time, like to get more customers because they have to socially distance.
no, that's probably true. That's probably true, but I'm just looking at it okay, from a commerce point of view, that makes sense. But I was just looking at it from how does 1 hour in close contact with people you don't know different from 2 hours or 3 hours? Maybe it is, maybe I don't know. Just
yeah, no, it's turnover, I think because
probably,
because
yeah.
it's yeah, we're at less capacity, so they're not fully opened. They're just distanced, but and like tables are limited to seating 10 at a time. Like groups of 10 are the largest groups, which still seems kind of big to me. And inside there's less capacity than outside. So you have 6 feet apart, spacing outside, but inside I believe it's like 25% capacity for any location. There's a lot of restaurants, the finer restaurants, that aren't opening at all because it's just not, like, it doesn't make sense fiscally to do that, to do 25% capacity. So
Gerda, did you hear my dentistry question answer?
Yes, thank you
You
very
were good?
much. Yep. Things are just a little bit scary here in
Arizona, yeah.
Arizona, so
Okay, so all right,
yeah.
question to the group then. If about 10 weeks ago, Europe, there was an article, I think, describing what was it called? Testing passports. So if you had a test within the last N number of days, let's call it 5 days or 7 days, and you were negative, then that gives you rights to do certain things that people who have not been tested in the last 7 days don't have a right to do. Okay, so for example, if you were tested and I don't know what the exact time period is, but if a group of all negative people want to go to a baseball game or a concert or something like that, what are your thoughts on the fairness of that, or the invasion of personal privacy, or the whatever? What are your thoughts are? People
I
taking.
would say that if the tests are available, equally available to everybody, so they're free or they're cheap, people can access them, that is fair. So I would say if the access is fair and free, then it's fine.
Okay, from just a math problem though. So you're saying in the last 7 days, if you've been tested and you're negative, you can come in. But if your test was 3 weeks ago, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to go? Are you going to go every other week? Are you going to go every week to get tested so you can carry around this passport to say, "Hey, look."
Yeah.
Well, I understand that's
Yes,
what
the
you're
answer is
doing for people going to Tahiti. Somebody on Facebook asked a question about, well, I want to go to Tahiti. So I went and looked it up. You have to be tested 72 hours before you get on a plane or whatever vehicle taking you there.
Right.
And then you're going to be your temperature taken. And I think they said they're going to be testing people periodically. And if at any point they're on a temperature, 14-day quarantine.
Yeah.
Because they're little islands and they don't want to get people bringing it there.
But temperature taking is the stupidest thing.
It is the stupidest thing. It's too late.
But if you're at that point where you're running the fever, okay, everyone you've been in contact for up to 2 weeks.
Yes, correct.
You've been spreading. So when they all these places they're taking your temperature and stuff, that horse is out of the barn.
Yep.
And I think they just don't know what to do, but they feel like they need to do something. But I agree. They obviously
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
understand the-
John's got his little laser temperature gauge at his store right now, right? I'm like, I call that the too late device, you know?
Yeah.
You're too late. Forget about it, man. You're literally 3 feet away from a person with 102 fever. You're too late. Sorry, man.
But the guy with the 102 fever was in there last week, along with 30
Spreading.
healthy people,
Yes.
and he was spreading.
Yeah.
So, but you caught him with a fever. Good job.
That's what I was going to say before. You talked about testing 7 days prior or within the last 7 days. But let's say you caught it, you don't realize it 4 days before.
Yeah.
You know? So I mean, you could still. I mean, I realize it minimizes it, and you have to draw the line somewhere. But
Right. Yeah. The thing is, like, the 4 days is in that initial part of the curve where you're not spreading yet. And then, yeah, so that gives you, but then like if it's aggressive in the 4th or 5th and 6th day, you start feeling ill.
Yeah. Well, you shouldn't be going out.
Like, you're right. You defeated the purpose, right? Because then you're in among 200 people who think that they're all safe and they're not, you know? But okay, so this comes back to something we touched upon, which is those 200 people that tested negative in northeastern Pennsylvania are actually much more credibly safe for each other than the 200 people in Chicago, where, which was did you consider, was Chicago considered a hotspot? Did you have, like, what were your numbers on a daily basis at the peak?
Oh God, we had at one point we're 2,000-3,000.
Yeah, that's pretty much a hotspot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that case,
mostly
go ahead.
Most of it isolated around like the Chicagoland area, like more in the Chicagoland area. Like this was, which is why, Southern Illinois was complaining so much, because they're like, we're not sick.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not sick. So
yes,
it's a Chicago problem.
And they're not wrong. They're not wrong. A lot of counties, localities, whatever, suffered massive economic damage, and potentially quite unnecessarily. And Sandra has asked me a couple of times, what do we do when the next thing comes along? Are we going to just shut everything down all over again? Are we going to repeat the same, are we going to suffer the same way and have to damage the economy the same way? No. We should take this as a giant lesson, a giant slap in the face, wake up call, because the interview with Dr. Hasseltine was so eye-opening. He was just dead on. No mincing of words. He said that the only tool we were left with was the blunt object of shutting everything down. It was just a giant sledgehammer to the country, whereas if we had started with a scalpel and excised where need be, and isolated and treated and contained, okay, let's forgive ourselves and let's forgive our authorities and things like that. I don't think we will ever see this again in our lifetime. I'm very confident. But we do have to address this right now. We do have to get through this. We have to use positive deviance. We have to get to maybe next week I'll cover it again. Sanjay's plan to reopen America. You remember that from like 5 weeks ago? Okay. Well, Jesus, that's been I'm gonna have to pull that out of the trash. But let's revisit that for a little bit, because it's 4 tiers and 3 steps in each tier, and it's testing, but you need to bring the prevalence way down. You got to bring the incidence way down across the board, and then you can very reasonably talk about safely sending kids to school and safely traveling and safely, visiting Sarah in Chicago and staying in a hotel and taking her out to dinner and visiting friends and family in different places again. But we can't right now. And we're gonna another thing that it always comes back to Sandra. we we talked about what was it about? It was the she asked me, so 14 days no cases and then we're good to go, right? And I'm like, yeah, here's the bad news. 14 days no cases until the clock resets. You get a new case 14 days again. Okay. And then I was like, but the good news, and I tried to present this as good news. I was like, the good news is that after 40 days of no cases, okay, you can stop all the draconian mask wearing and one-way in lanes in the grocery store and all the weird shit that we have to go through. And Mike was talking about the 12 miles of plexiglass that he had to put up in his hotels, Once you get past 40, 45 days of no new cases, you can have a rugby match with 43,000 people in attendance. No masks. Okay? So I'm after ranting for 2 hours, I'm trying to be positive here. There is a light at the end. There's a way out of this. Get serious and get the clock ticking on how to do this the right way. And maybe it has to come down to the fact we have to get in each other's not faces, that would be bad.
No.
we have to try to tell people, look, mask up and let's get this over with as fast as possible, so
If it was 40 days, right? 40 days.
Terry's like, no, not gonna happen.
If we had 40 days, no cases. So would you say the whole country 40 days, no cases, or our state, or
the whole country 40 days, new cases? We're done. The pandemic's over.
Okay.
We're done.
2022.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah,
It's not going to be this year.
It's not going to be this year. No.
And in 2022, look for a halfway decent vaccine. That's the only way we're getting out of this.
Yeah, a vaccine this year, forget about it. Not going to happen. There's no way it's getting.
Not even this time next year.
I wouldn't want to run.
Candidate one. This time next year can't. No, not this time. September, October of 2021, you'll have the first candidate vaccine.
Which doesn't mean it's going to be
effective.
Really effective.
No, maybe 35 to 45% effective.
So it's 3 years.
Hey, good enough, man. Trust me. Terry. Sandra, do you see the t-shirts?
Yes. Yes.
I love it. All right, the boys are agitating for their chocolate ice cream. So I love you all. I have a
question for Cindy, if I may. Yes. Okay, I have a friend who's he's taking his wife and daughter to Disney in about 2 weeks, and I thought, boy, are they even open? Like, are you hearing anything around Orlando?
Well, the last I heard was they're not open.
Okay.
That was like within the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Because
it's going to be like a Wally World trip.
Yeah. They might have the whole place to themselves or something.
Yeah, well, I think the bottom line is any kind of travel, don't make any cancelable arrangements.
Yeah, you never know.
Check.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, right in Florida, it's like stuff's open, stuff's closed.
Yeah.
Because they're reacting to the cases that are being counted. I won't be political, but the cases that are being counted, I guess, are bad enough that they're closing.
Well, they said they were taking it day by day, literally checking their emails every day, watching for notifications, and the daughter would be heartbroken, but the parents are like, well, look, if the numbers are high, we're not going. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
You better refund their thousands of dollars, So
if your vacation
look
plans,
at some states, if somebody comes to a hotspot like Florida, and then they go back to their non-hotspot state,
They're going to have to
they might have mandatory quarantine.
Yeah.
So you got to figure that into your travel plans as well.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's going to Arizona over the holiday weekend. I said, you might not be back for a while.
Right.
Just saying.
Well, you're all welcome to visit me and Sandra up here in Pennsylvania. Just get tested before you come.
I'm sure Pennsylvania isn't allowing people from Texas up, so.
We said last week that could end up becoming a scenario, you know, that we start. That would be horrible. That's just, I don't want to see us do that. Anyway. All right. I love you all. Take care. Be safe. Don't get sick. And I'll see you next week.
Wear a mask.
Yes. Take care.
Sarah Bear.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.